Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Shanti Shetty. Continuing the section on mammography, today I'll be taking a short video on how to read a mammogram. Hope you like it. In this video, I describe a simple yet effective approach to read a mammogram. These 5 points are taken into consideration while interpreting a mammogram systematically. Technical considerations which include adequate compression, no motion artifacts, and correct technique in obtaining images. Size and positioning. The posterior nipple line is the parameter which is used to assess these two. Symmetry. We evaluate shade symmetry of both breasts to look for dissimilar areas which may represent a calcification, cyst, fibroadenoma, breast mass, or it simply could be an asymmetric density seen on a single view. To ensure that we do not miss out evaluation of any area in the breast, our checklist enlists 5 spots which I shall explain shortly. Surgery. Details of previous surgery are a must. In fact, history along with present complaints and examination of the breast is vital to the test. Comparison with previous mammograms. This improves the outcome of the test. It reduces the recall rates and also it results in more true positive outcomes and fewer false positive outcomes. Now we start with adequate compression. Breast compression is applied to reduce the thickness of the breast. This results in improved image quality due to reduced tissue superimposition and X-ray scatter. Compression also limits the required exposure dose. The compression paddle holds the breast tissue in a fixed position, reducing the risk of motion artifacts and image blurring. It should be kept in mind that excessive compression may lead to discomfort and pain, causing a decline in participation of women in screening programs. There are no quantitative guidelines available to decide the compression force to be applied for acquisition of an adequate mammogram. It varies widely among radiographers, screening centers, and countries. We should ensure that there are no motion artifacts on the film. So what is an artifact? An artifact is defined as any variation in mammographic density not caused by true attenuation differences in the breast. How do these motion artifacts occur? They can occur due to patient movement, inadequate compression, long exposure, or poor positioning technique. They cause blurring of images, hindering the efficacy of the test. Now, how do we look for the correct technique? So on a MLO view, we see that the pectoralis muscle is imaged completely, the inframammary fold is open, and the glandular tissue should not be cut off. On a craniocaudal view, we look for the posterior nipple line, check that the retroglandular fat is visible, at least some part of it, look for the medial breast tissue, and the nipple should be visible in profile view. How do we assess the size? We assess the size of the imaged breast using the posterior nipple line. It is a line drawn posteriorly and perpendicularly from the nipple towards the pectoral muscle or the posterior image edge on the CC view. The difference between the posterior nipple line measurement on the CC and the MLO view should not be more than 1 centimeter. I'll show you a quick method in day-to-day practice how to check the size symmetry. So you can use a plain paper, keep it at the level of the nipple, and it should go behind, the edge of the paper should go behind perpendicularly up to the margin of the pectoralis muscle. Mark the point there. Then you use it on the CC view from the nipple going behind perpendicularly and mark the point where the breast ends. The difference between the 2 points should not be more than 1 centimeter. A second method, which will take a little more time, is to use a scale. So with a scale, you hold it along a line which passes from the nipple perpendicularly behind, reaching the lower edge of the pectoralis muscle. You note the reading. On this film, this is about 14 centimeters. On the CC view, the line is from the nipple drawn behind perpendicularly to the posterior aspect of the image, and here it is 13.3 centimeters. So the difference should not be 1 centimeter. So now we look for shade symmetry. We start with the MLO view. I usually recommend using a piece of paper or a sheet to cover the area of the breast which we are not assessing. So we start with the upper 1/3. So you can cover the rest of the breast with a piece of paper so that you have a clear view. Look for the upper breast, look for shade symmetry in the upper 1/3, middle 1/3, and then the middle 1/3. Next, we use a magnifying glass and look for microcalcifications in the upper 1/3, middle 1/3, and the middle 1/3 of the breast. So I just want to include a short note on breast calcifications. Breast calcifications are deposits of calcium salts in the breast which are radio-opaque on mammography. Most calcifications in the breast form either within the terminal ducts, which are mostly benign, or within the acini, which are suspicious and classified as BIRADS 4 or 5. Microscopically, calcifications typically represent calcium phosphate or calcium oxalate salt deposition, with the latter more likely to be benign. Let's start with the typically benign calcifications. So those which are seen on the skin usually form in dermal sweat glands after low-grade folliculitis and insusception of sebaceous material. They are round or oval in shape and may have lucent centers, often described as a tattoo sign because they have the same relationship to each other on multiple mammographic views. Next, vascular calcifications. These appear as parallel tram tracks or discontinuous linear due to calcified atherosclerotic plaques in the arterial walls of blood vessels. Next, we may see coarse or popcorn-like calcifications. These are large, usually more than 2 to 3 millimeters, sometimes confluent or associated with a circumscribed mass formed in involuting or degenerating fibroadenomas. Next, large rod-like calcifications which are usually seen in women over 60 years of age. They are diffuse, bilateral, direction-oriented towards the nipple and form within ectatic ducts. They are usually intraductal, sometimes periductal. Next, we have round or punctate calcifications which form in the acini of terminal duct lobular unit, that is the TDLU. This is the basic functional and histopathological unit of the breast. Round or punctate calcifications are usually less than 1 millimeter in size. Their punctate calcifications are usually less than 0.5 millimeters. Rim or eggshell calcifications are lucent centered, formed in the walls of simple cysts or oil cysts. So what is an oil cyst? It is an area of focal fat necrosis which becomes walled off by fibrous tissue. Dystrophic calcifications are small macrocalcifications with relatively smooth margins. They are usually more than 1 millimeter in size, irregular, seen post-radiation or in trauma or in cases of surgery. Milk of calcium cysts are curvilinear or teacup calcifications seen on true lateral views. Suture lines also give rise to calcifications. These appear linear or tubular, formed on loops and knots of surgical sutures. So these are some images of benign calcifications which we usually see in day-to-day practice. This is a rounded calcification. These are oil cysts. This is dystrophic calcification within a fibroadenoma. This is a popcorn calcification. The next one is a eggshell calcification, and this is the vascular calcification which has a parallel tram track appearance. Next, we move to suspicious calcifications. Coarse or heterogeneous calcifications are irregular in shape. They are generally 0.5 to 1 millimeter in size. Amorphous calcifications are indistinct and small. They have no specific shape. They could be seen as powdery, cottony, or cloudy in appearance. Fine pleomorphic calcification are generally less than 0.5 millimeter. They are variable in shape, usually seen as shards of glass or crushed stone appearance. Fine linear or fine linear branching calcifications are linear, thin, less than 0.5 millimeters, branching or irregularly arranged. So these are some examples of suspicious calcifications. This one is amorphous calcification, the next one is fine pleomorphic. Let's move on to the evaluation of 5 spots. On an MLO view, look at the axilla, look at the nipple and the subareolar region. Look at the interface, which is the edge of the cone. Now, look at the danger zones, the retroglandular fat, the superior or the inferior fat, the skin. Now look for the whitest areas on the screen. Now we move to evaluation of the CC view. Again, for the shade symmetry, use a piece of paper, cover the rest of the breast other than what you are evaluating. Start looking at the lateral 1/3 of the breast, then the middle 1/3 of the breast, and the medial 1/3 of the breast. Next, you look for microcalcification using a magnifying glass in the same order: lateral 1/3 of the breast, middle 1/3 of the breast, and medial 1/3 of the breast. Again, we come to evaluation of 5 spots on the CC view. Look at the lateral breast, the nipple and the subareolar region, the interface, which is the edge of the cone. Look at the danger zones, which is the retrogranular fat, the superior or the inferior fat, the skin, and look for the areas which are whitest on the skin. We move on to history of surgery. It is recommended that women who undergo a breast conserving surgery, sometimes a partial mastectomy or lumpectomy, should get a mammogram of the treated breast 6 to 12 months after radiation treatment ends. Surgery and radiation both cause changes in the skin and breast tissues that will show up on the mammogram, which might make it harder to read. The mammogram done at this time serves as a new baseline for the affected breast. Future mammograms will be compared with this one to assess healing and also to look for recurrence. So these are few images of post-operative breasts. This is the scar from the surgery. This dense area around the scar is actually a collection beneath the scar. This is a breast surgery done some time back. There's a scar tissue, the skin has retracted there, and this is probably the area where the lumpectomy was done. Here you see the clips in the area of lumpectomy. So why is comparison so important with previous mammograms? It improves the reading performance. It reduces the false positive results by up to 44%. The recall rate is significantly lower for borderline lesions with a stable appearance. Comparison facilitates recall for cases which show progressive change. The likelihood of identifying a developing lesion or a progressive change, even a slow change, in an existing lesion increases as the number of prior examinations for comparisons increases. So these are some few common cases which we see in day-to-day practice. This is an accessory breast which is seen in the axilla. This is a simple cyst. This is a fibroadenoma. It is actually an involuting fibroadenoma. You can see dystrophic calcification within it, and these are axillary nodes. These are some examples of spiculated masses. This one here is a spiculated mass. It shows nipple retraction. There is some collection around it. This is a spiculated mass with some pleomorphic calcification.